Hi, this is a level 2-3 session, a resistance session. So it will be good for building up strength and endurance, building up stability and increasing bone density. And you've got the option to use one of these booty bands if you have one or something like it. This is the lighter of the ones that we use. And again, it's still hard, so although we're going to be using it mainly on our lower body, when it comes to the upper body stuff, if you prefer to use a light band, that's absolutely fine, and we'll just be using the old 1 knot and 1 bow method. When we're using that, don't fasten it too tight. And then for our floor work, obviously, we're going to need a mat. So if you want to gather your bits and pieces together, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so we're going to start without the bands just until we've got warmed up. We're going to do a standing warm up today. So if you'd like to stand with your feet hip distance apart, just making sure that the area immediately around you is clear and you're on an even surface. So standing with your feet hip distance, soften those knees for me. Just stack up the body segments, lengthen through the crown of your head. Taking a soft breath, we're just going to exhale and gently connect the abdominal wall. So it's not a massive connection, just making sure that abdominal wall is slightly engaged. And in that position, tuck under and tip forward. Just be aware that the knees are not bending, the upper back isn't flexing, tummy stays drawn in. And just gently flatten the lumbar spine as you tuck under and hollow as you tip forward. So we're going to find our neutral position now, having just loosened up those joints a little bit. So make that movement smaller and smaller and smaller until you feel that you've found a central position. So hold it again, maintaining that slight connection, just very gently. Roll the shoulders back and down. And as you squeeze those shoulders back and down, keep the neck still, keep the chin still. And just moving the shoulder blades, moving the upper arm, moving the collarbones, keeping the spine and the rib cage still. Just loosening very gently. And this time we're leaving those shoulders slightly further back, slightly further down than they were when we started. Relax the wrists and the forearms. And think about those feet being about hip distance, maybe slightly narrower if you want to make it a little bit easier. Neutral spine, connect the abdominals. Watch your reflection if you can, if you've got a mirror handy. And we're going to lift and lower the heels. So what we're looking for is stability in the upper body, in the spine and the hips, and mobility in the ankles, the knees and the hip joints. So if you can see your reflection, we're not leaning from side to side, we're not hitching the hip, and those knees travel forward in line with the toes. If you're comfortable, let's flow the opposite arm. So that's right heel, left arm and vice versa. And again, it's useful to be able to see in a mirror just to see if you're actually doing that. Lovely. So we're going for a fairly brief loosening now warm up today. So again, make that your last one. Come back to parallel hip distance and hinge at the hips. And as you hinge at the hips, keep that neutral spine position for me. Just checking I've actually got one. Shoulders are back, little press studs are fastened there in the back of the armpits, so I'm not letting those shoulder blades protract. Neck stays long, so I'm not looking at the horizon as I hinge forward. I'm looking at the front of my mat. If your shoulders are comfortable, have that arm float back in. Remember, it's only a small movement. And again, don't let the shoulder blades separate. Just allow them to pivot round a little bit, but keep them fairly still. And 2 more. And 1 more. Keeping those heels down, come back to a central position. I'm going to ask you to narrow a fraction. Lengthen, stay stacked up and lift your heels. Lovely. So as you lift and lower your heels, come into the ball of the foot and the big toe. And obviously if you've got any fused toes, you won't be doing that. Go back to the foot pedal. So as you lift the heels, keep those shoelaces parallel. Try not to let yourself, if I can demonstrate how not to do it, try not to let yourself splay outwards, letting those heels and ankles come away from each other. And 2 more. And 1 more time. And coming back to that position, feet hip distance. Remember that if you're not comfortable with rotation, allow your lower body to move with you. If you have osteoporosis, allow your lower body to move with you and keep this movement small. Otherwise, float, drop the arm, little bit of rotation, come back again. So both palms face the wall I'm just letting my head go naturally with me. So I'm looking from the front view to the side view. I'm not turning and trying to look towards that back hand. So I'm staying within a comfortable range. Inhale to rotate. Back shoulder stays down. Watch that shoulder, don't let it sneak up. And one more on each side. So for me, that's one more right and one more left. And as we come back to our central position, this is where we're going to start to use the band. So remember that if you are using a long band, stand with your feet hip distance apart. It's a very long band. Place the band above your knee joints, so it's above the joint line, and we're going to put, with the knees and feet hip distance apart, a tiny bit of tension in there, not enough to pull your knees together, just enough for you to be able to keep the band on. One knot, one bow. Yeah. So you want to just take up the loose end a little bit, and that should stay on. Obviously, if you bring your knees back together, you're going to lose it. So keep your feet hip distance. I'm going to go for the nice easy option because it's got like a nice little sticky band on the inside that stops it rubbing. And again, that's going above the knees and feet at hip distance. So making sure that that doesn't allow my knees to drop in, I'm pressing slightly into the band. What I'm not doing is rolling right outwards and sending my knees out to the corner. So again, hinge for me, bending the knees, maintaining that parallel position. Keeping the head and chest high, shoulders back, chin tucked in. Lovely. So again, just thinking about stability, like feel the sides of your hips and your thighs working that little bit harder as you're trying to maintain parallel. Keep your spine really still. So we're going to come down into a hinge position. Fasten those press studs back, connect the abdominals. So we're supported here at the front of the body, and just transfer the weight very slightly. We're not leaning over, and we're definitely not going to kick the hip out to one side. Think about that straight line down one side of the body, and tap out and in. Tap out and in. Lovely. So we have 6. If you're tired, come back up to standing, have a little pedal. 4 and 3 and 2, and come back to parallel and keep that tension, and squat again for me. So maintain neutral. So you should feel that the standing leg actually felt like it was working harder than the other leg. So that was stabilising you. And 4, keep those shoulders back. 3 and 2. And we're going down. Can we hold it at the bottom again? So again, stabilise this hip. You're going to transfer the weight very slightly, but don't let the hip kick out. And tap out. And stretch in the band. Lovely. Well done. Keep it really still. That knee's still bent. 4, chest up. 3, keep the body in line. 2 and 1. And back to our squats. And 4 and 3 and 2 and 1. Coming back up to a tall position. So we're staying parallel again. I'm not bringing those knees together so the band doesn't fall off. I'm going to step wide, knees in line with the toes, squat, come up, come back in, same leg. Lovely. Remember, we're not letting the upper body go too deep. Sit through the hips. If you have any discomfort in your knees, just make the range of movement smaller in the knees and the hips. So we have 4 and 3 and 2, and we're going to cross and step in. Same thing on the other leg. You ready? Step out and together, out. Press, don't let those knees drop in. Knees in line with the toes. Keep the arches hollowed. And 4 and 3 and 2 and 1. And step in. Lovely. We'll turn sideways so you can take 1, 2. Feet are still parallel, else my band would fall off. Lift the sternum, hinge again. Not going too far forward, I'm not resting on my legs. So keep the back active, keep the hips active, transfer the weight slightly but not noticeably to one side. Tap back and forward. 7 and 6, just straightening the knee, just putting a little bit of tension into the band and squeeze the glute. 4 and 3 and 2 and 1, squatting, here we go. 8, 7, breathe in on the way down. If your legs are getting tired, just come up and have a little pedal through your feet. And 3 and 2 and 1. Get ready to hold it again. Feet are parallel. Transfer the weight very slightly into that other foot and ready to tap. So I'm straightening the knee. I'm just tapping the floor, keeping the chest up, so this hip's working really hard, glutes working hard, back's working hard. Abdominals should also be switched on to support the back. Too busy talking, so I've stopped counting. So let's say 2 more and 1 more. And come up and squat. 8 and 7 and 6 and 5 and 4 and 3 and 2 and 1. Stay here. So transfer slightly more this time because we're going to do something a bit tougher. Tap right out, come in, tap out. So we're going further. Try not to twist over. 4, again tight. 3, keep that hip stable. 2, keep that knee in line with the toes. Let's say 1, and come up, squat, feet hip distance. 8 and 7, should be nice and warm. 6 and 5, keep those insteps hollowed, keep the knees in line with the toes. 3 and 2 and 1. I'm just going to move across a little bit, give me a bit more space. Bottom of your squat, stay upright, transfer the weight slightly. Now press into that band, take the leg further. 6, 5, 4, don't let the band pull the knee in. 3, 2, 1, and come up. Lovely. Let your band fall down, and we're going to come down onto the floor. So again, with this floor-based segment, if this band is a little bit too tough and as you get going you find it's quite restricting, go back to this one. And what we're going to do is place the band on your upper arms. Try and flatten it a little bit. Mine's rolled up nicely so it really digs in. Just try and flatten it out. Above the elbows, not right up near the armpits, just above the elbows. And you can see that it kind of leaves me tied up here with my arms being pulled forward, so my scapulae are protracting and pulling around the side of my rib cage. So I'm going to squeeze. If you're not comfy kneeling down here, please kneel up. Squeeze, yeah. So what I'm not doing is sticking my chest out, sticking my ribs out. I'm just pulling those upper arms to the side of the rib cage and I'm drawing my shoulder blades down. Breathe out, breathe in. If you want to breathe the other way, that's fine. So it's quite hard work on your back. And 4, we get to 1, we're going to hold it, and 2. Now can you hold it here? We're coming into all fours position, don't let that go. So like a robot, come into all fours position, maintain that softness in your elbows, gently release your lower back, just tuck in the tailbone under, keep the thoracic spine, neck, shoulders nice and still, and draw the navel in, and 2. And come back, hold it for me, really press into the hands. We're not flexing the spine, we're lengthening the back of your neck. As you exhale, hover your right hand. As you take your hand away, don't let the band pull the other elbow in. You don't have to take your hand off the floor if you don't want to. If the band is digging in, make sure that you just take a moment and flatten it out again. gently. And one more on each side. So coming back to this all fours position, very gently, we're going back into scapular placement, squeeze the shoulder blades together. Think about this not as a movement of the head and the neck, not as a movement of the spine, it's a movement of the shoulder girdle. So as we come to the top of this movement, don't flex. And exhale, press, lift the chest. Press, one more time, exhale, press. Can we hold it? Just maintaining stability. If your arms are getting tired, take the band away, toes tucked under if you can, otherwise leave your shoelaces on the floor. Exhale, hover the knees. Inhale, return. Exhale. Inhale, return. Exhale. Inhale, return. We've got 4 more. If you're tired, just rest. And 3. And 2. Now if you're comfortable, we're going to hold it with a hover. Are you ready? Stabilise the shoulders, hover the knees. Can we pedal through the feet? If your feet don't like it, don't do it. Keep the spine still. 8, 7, 6. Really light on the feet. 4, knees still. 3, 2, 1. Release. So just give yourself a bit of a breather there. Roll the shoulders. Relaxing the neck. Chin tucked in. Now whilst we're here, again, if you're not comfy kneeling down, sitting on your heels, come up into kneeling, kneel on your pad if that's more comfortable. Using either the flat of this band or the inner edge of your booty band, we're going to do something very attractive. Now I want you to pop it around the back of your head. Place your hands in the front, palms forward. This is a very small movement and it's not a movement of your elbow. So we're just going to put slight tension into the band and hold it. Tuck the chin. And exhale, tuck. Not forcing the head back, just tucking the chin. Shortening the muscles in the front of the neck. And you might well feel that the work comes right down here through the back of the neck, through the upper back. And tuck. And 4, as you release, don't let the chin protrude, keep it softly tucked. And 2, and 1, and we're coming up into kneeling. So, I've gone to get my pad. If your knees are uncomfortable, grab your pad. I just made a mess of my hair as well. So, to start with, knees hip distance. If your knees are not comfy with a hinging movement, just stay in a vertical position for me. So with a slight gap between the knees, plug the sit bones in, connect the glutes and the abdominals, and just give me a little hinge. And again. And flow the arms. Palms face inwards, hands at least shoulder width, if not slightly wider. Don't let the back extend, keep pulling the belly in. And 2 more. And 1 more time. And coming back up. Hands down by the side of your body. Knees slightly apart. Engage those glutes, plug the sit bones in again. Connect the abdominals, side bend. Noticing, if you can see there, no movement in my legs, no movement in my hip joints. My head just goes with me. Body segments stay stacked up. If you can imagine, I'm trapped between 2 panes of glass. And I can see as I'm doing that there, my head's going with me a lot more as I go to the right than it is when I go to the left. So I'm going neck, lateral flexion, and then I'm kind of going like a gyroscope, trying to keep my eyes on the horizon. So let's let that even it out. Should be comfortable. Did it again. 1 more on each side. Try and do it right this time. And come back to the top. So, taking the band above the elbows, just above the elbows, flat as you can get it, not very on this occasion. Press out, stabilise the shoulders, yeah, keep those shoulders nice and stable. And from slightly forward, because the band's on your ribs, hinge, pull, squeeze those armpits back, hinge, and pull. So we're not going for a massive movement with either the shoulders or the knees here. It's still hard work. And keep those feet down. And 2. And 1 more. and come back. Lovely. So we're going to release the band again, roll your shoulders. In a second, coming into all fours position. And I'm going to use this band, the booty band. There's no problem whatsoever using the other one. It's just I know that this one will stay still a lot better. The difficulty is I can't have a nice smooth transition because I've got to get the band on. So the band is going to go above my kneecaps, so it stops at the joint line, it's not on the joint line. And as we come back into all fours position again, coming into leg pull prep. So if your feet are a problem, remember, cushion under your feet, don't tuck the toes under. Relax those elbows, imagine the band is still on here, pressing outwards. Lift the sternum, neutral spine, tuck the chin, connect the abdominals. If you're happy to tuck your toes under, do, and exhale, hover. Lovely. And 7. Remember, we're just trying to lift an inch. And as you touch the mat, you're not relaxing, you're just putting your knees down. And 4. And 3. And 2. And 1. Now, if your wrists are getting uncomfortable, feel free to come down onto your elbows. And again, you can put your elbows on a pad or you can fold your mat over to give you a little bit of extra padding for those pointy elbows. Elbows directly under the shoulders, draw the armpits down, long neck, draw the belly in. If you're still comfortable up here on your hands, then it's absolutely fine to stay up there on your hands as well. So, without transferring the weight across sideways, knees hip distance, engage the abdominals, fix the spine in a neutral position. As you exhale, pivot from the right hip, 8 and 7 and 6. Now don't let that foot go across. If that's your right foot, don't let it go across to the left. And 4 and 3 and 2. And bring the knee down. Knee should still be apart. Reset your position. Don't swing your hips across to the right. And fix that knee at 90 degrees. We have 8. And 7. Exhale to press. Keep that body still so there's nothing jerky or bouncy about this movement. And 4. And 3. And 2. And 1. And release. Now as we come down onto your front, remember, if your hips are uncomfortable, put your hips on your pad, pubic bone on your pad so you don't bruise yourself. And we're going to start in this position. Feet slightly apart, forehead on the fingers, shoulders stable. Again, lengthen the back of your neck. So from here, we have 2 options. If you have any piriformis issues, stay in a neutral alignment, don't externally rotate. If you're comfortable, then externally rotate. So if you imagine you had a torch on your kneecap and your shoelaces, you're trying to shine both of those torches at the sides of the room. And engage the glutes, push that pubic bone down, lift the navel up, and as you exhale, lift the feet. Just press very lightly into the band, you really won't need to go very far. Press and release. And press and release. Lumbar spine stays still. Pelvis stays still. So this is moving from the hip joints. One of the nice things about having the band on there is it's going to give you some feedback as to whether one leg is trying to go further than the other. I feel as if my left leg is quite happy to go a little bit further than my right leg. And 2. And 1. And release. Head down. If you're comfortable, come back. Hands by your sides. Let the shoulders slump to the floor. If your neck's uncomfortable, pop a cushion under your forehead. Chest is squished, and we're going to rotate the humerus. So I fasten my press stud. I lift the front of my shoulder, knock my forehead, palms to the thighs, little fingers to the ceiling, and squeeze. Reach those tips of your fingers down the body. The hands are coming off the floor. We are getting a little squeeze in the back of the shoulder, a little squeeze between the shoulder blades and beneath the shoulder blades in those lats. 2 more. And 1 more. Now let's just hold the shoulders comfortably. Relax the lower body. Bring the toes closer together, heels further apart. Float the face. Please try and limit this to lumbar extension. So keep the chin tucked in. Draw the shoulders down. Now if you're comfortable, you've got the option to continue with this movement. Shoulders are staying fixed there. If you're happy, we're going to put the three movements together. So we have shoulders, thoracic extension, hip extension with external rotation, and release. So legs, arms, upper body. Remember that the temptation when you start to lift both is to make it into a massive movement, which we don't want. Less is more. Let's keep it small. We're trying not to extend the lumbar spine. We're trying to press slightly into that band. We're trying to draw the belly in. Imagine your body like a little suspension bridge there. Between the ribs and the hips, you are lifting the navel. And one more time. And as we relax, in theory, we're going to bring the hands forward, pull all the way back, rest into shell stretch position. If you're uncomfy with the band on, just take it away. Take a wide breath in. Expand the back of your rib cage. And I'm just turning this way on so you can see what I'm up to for a second. So reaching those hands forward, we're going to bring the right hand round. We're going to bring the head and shoulders round, and we're going to bring the left hand round. Now, the head stays low, the arm is at the side of your head. I'm not bringing it underneath me towards the opposite hand. What I am going to do is walk the fingers forward and pull the sit bone back, so I'm getting a nice stretch through the lats there. Relax the neck. And hand comes back, head comes back, other hand comes back. Take that hand round, head and shoulders round, other hand round. Take a wide breath, walk those fingers forward, pull that sit bone back. Feel a lovely long stretch there down the right side of your body, from the armpit past the ribs, maybe through the waist into the lower back. And one more breath. And we're coming up. Now, as we come onto our side, if your hip is uncomfortable, then again, by all means, place your pad so that it's underneath your hip bone. And if you just don't like lateral position, then by all means, give it a miss and just sit and have a laugh at us for a minute. So, coming into clam position, I've got my body lined up. Remember, if your shoulder's not happy here, you want a cushion or a block underneath your head to keep your neck in a line. So we're not flexed forward. Hips are stacked, so I'm going to push, and I can't see because I'm wearing black and black. Waist is lifted, hips pushed away. Heels are together. I'm bringing those feet slightly forward, but not all the way. And I'm moving into clam. Again, the band is above my knees, and if you are not comfortable with the band, take it away, okay? So that's still above my knee joint, even though I just pushed it down a bit. I don't know why I've pushed it down, because that makes it harder. Bringing it further up makes it easier. 4 and 3 and 2, using that glute med, hold it here. So, kind of lift the foot to parallel. So we're going to go external rotation, internal rotation. Try and keep the stretch in the band. Yeah, so you're rotating in the hip joint. And rotate. Fantastic. And that should be getting quite tired by now. 4, 3, 2, and 1. And release. I'll let you have a moment. Just take that leg across the body. So our next position is going to be seated. And I'm going to switch positions on the mat because we're going to do the other leg in a moment, so if I'm facing that way it'll be smoother. So bringing those knees together and coming up, and I'm just going to swing my legs round and come into a seated position. Feet are close to the front edge of my mat. And in this position, sitting up tall on the sit bones, shoulders relaxing down, neck nice and long. And all we're going to do is roll the pelvis back as if I'm imprinting. And if I was lying on the floor, my spine would be going to the floor, but because I'm not, it's just moving back and flattening and possibly even rounding a bit there. The important bit's what's happening here. We're pulling in. So maintaining a slight gap between the knees. Focus on those sit bones. Push them into the floor and then feel them tilt backwards and come back up. Yeah, if you're comfortable. I don't want you to develop a lot of tension here. So if you're somebody who is very tense there, miss this next bit out, stay in the small range. If you have a lumbar disc injury, if you have a prolapse, stay in that small range of movement, and if necessary, rest on your hands and just continue with that same movement. Otherwise, I'm going to hold on to my band. I'm not trying to stretch it particularly, it's just giving me a little bit of support and keeping my feet on the floor. I'm rolling, tucking under, roll back a little bit further, keep the heels on the ground, relax the shoulders, and roll back up and come back up into a tall position. So roll off the sit bones, I'm not dropping my head down, I'm just looking forward and pull the belly in, roll in and lengthen up. Roll back, draw the navel in, shoulders relaxed. And pull the ribs to the hips, sit bones to the mat, head to the roof, and roll back. So just as far as you feel comfortable, exhale as you come in, and lengthen up, inhale, exhale, little breath in, exhale, lengthen up, inhale, exhale, little breath in, and one more time. Now all we're going to do is go all the way down to the floor. If you have a back injury, remember knees together, come on to your side and lay down. Otherwise, hold on, engage, don't relax, roll down. And we're here. The band is still above my knee joint line. The feet are slightly apart and in a neutral position. If your neck is uncomfortable, remember you could pop a cushion under your head just to give you a little bit of comfort and make you more aligned. In a neutral spine position, so a slight hollow under the lumbar spine, you can rest your hands on your hips or your tummy to help you. Be aware that they're staying still. As you exhale, engage, feel that connection. Small movement, knee drop right. Come back to the centre. Small movement, knee drop left. Now these are necessarily small movements because this is high resistance. If I press hard, I'm just going to drag this other leg across. So can I just remind you to stay in a small range of movement, in a balanced range of movement, and just keep that going for me. So again, that's our prep level. And if you're comfortable, what we're going to do is come into tabletop position. So necessarily we're going to fold one leg, imprint the spine, fold the other leg. Remember again, if you have a prolapse or a lumbar disc injury, keep your feet on the ground. Knees are flexed at 90 degrees, tailbone trying to lift, tummy drawing in. Think about pelvic and spine stability. Exhale, press. Inhale, just to keep tension in the band. Don't let that collapse like I just did. And exhale, press. Inhale, exhale, press. So don't drag the other leg around with you. Yeah. Exhale, press. You put your fingers on that kneecap, that'll help you know it's staying still. You'll be more focusing on the other leg because it's working really hard. And 4, and 3, and 2, and 1. Now coming back to the centre, if you have a prolapse or a disc injury, your feet are going to stay on the floor, slightly apart, keep the tension in the band, otherwise we're here. We're taking those arms away, shoulders relaxing onto the mat, neck stays central. Take a breath in, breathe out, connect the abdominals, breathe in, rotate, press into the band, and come back. Breathe in, rotate, out. Breathe out as you come back and breathe in the wrong place. Breathe in, shoulder blades stay down, breathe out. Now again, remember if you have any discomfort in rotation, make this smaller, take your feet down to the floor, it will be lower resistance. Think about your upper back and shoulder blades staying glued down as your lower back moves, and just be aware, are you getting a bigger range of movement on one side than the other? Limit the movement if necessary to A, make it comfortable, and B, keep it balanced. So we're working around these obliques, so you're pulling the tummy in. And one more on each side. And coming back to the centre and relax there for a second. So from here, we're all taking the feet back down to the floor. If you have neck injury, osteoporosis, prolapse, I want you to stay at the prep level of this exercise, which is where we imagine trunk flexion but don't do it. So fix the knees, slight tension into the band, neutral through the lumbar and the pelvis, connect the abdominals, stabilise the shoulders and nod the chin as you exhale. We zip and hollow, reach and nod. Inhale, release. Now you don't have to lift, but you could take the pressure off the mat. So we engage, So you might feel as if you're just lifting a millimetre, that's fine because you're not flexing through the thoracic spine or the neck. If your neck is quite happy and comfortable with thoracic flexion and a tiny bit of spical flexion, not the chin, flex thoracic and release. So again, at this point, certainly for me, this is not a massive movement. I'm getting sort of the vertebrae down to about bra strap off the floor. And for many of us, that might be the end of the range of movement. Some people I know can roll all the way up, not me. So what we're going to do is increase our tension and allow us to pull a little bit further up. So hands are here. Stabilise those shoulders, nod the chin, curl up, grab the band, just climb up a little bit more and release back down. And super technique, curling up, grab the band, don't poke the chin, don't shrug the shoulders, pull a little bit and release. So that pull is coming from here, not here. And stabilise the shoulders, curl up, grab the band, climb up. Think about that rib hip connection and release. And again, a little bit more and release. And reach, nod, curl, and a tiny bit more. And release, one more time. And can we hold it here? If you can't, don't worry. Still in neutral, nice and long through the neck, and just lift a tiny bit. Now think ribs to hips, like a bicep curl. Don't move your head, yeah? Ribs to hips. 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. So I'm going to slide the band off. And I'm going to bring it up here. So again, if this is a bit tight for your upper body, swap to your longer band. I'm going to place the band around just above the joint line, above the pointy bit of my elbow. I'm going to bring my hands into prayer position. Drop the shoulders towards the mat, but don't let that force the ribs up. Now if you've got a bigger chest than me, this might not be a great position to get into, in which case you're going to need to use the band and make it longer. So think about this prayer position and just draw the upper arm towards the floor and release. Now if this gives you any pain in your sternum, just don't do it, okay? It's not 100% connection, it's just a gentle press. And draw down. So I'm pushing my elbow down into the band. The band itself crosses the ribs, so it stops me going any further. And 4, and 3, and 2, so a little bit of upper back, mid back, a little bit of lats, and relax, take the band away, roll onto one side, come up carefully, and if I remember rightly, we need to do climb on the other side, so we're placing that band back around your legs. And there we are. So, knees bent, not pulled right up, yeah, feet forward but not all the way forward. Straight line, wrist, shoulder, ear, hip, and hollowing under the waist. Draw that top shoulder back, and we're starting with our climb. Now, don't worry too much if this feels harder than it did on the other side. You've been working since then, you've had time to get more tired. Breathe out as you lift, squeeze those heels together. If you hate the band, take it away. And 4, and 3, and 2, and hold it. Keep the tension in the band. Internally rotate, externally rotate. So it's like footprint to the ceiling, footprint to the floor. For me, it's probably a smaller movement than it is for you because my internal rotation is not that great. Most people can get their foot up here somewhere. And 4, having said that, it's really working. 3, and 2, and 1, and relax. Let's give it a stretch, just give it a moment there. And come back up. So as we slide that band off one leg, I've got a really funny one for you to do, last thing. I'm going to turn sideways so you can see what I'm up to. What we're going to do is put the band under the ball of your foot, and again, if you've got longer legs than I have, because mine are only short and stumpy, you're probably going to need to use the other band. If you're using your big band, make sure it's flat underneath the foot, so it's just underneath the ball of the foot and the edge of the toes. It's not under the instep and the heel. And what I'm going to do is place it on here and hold on to it. Now this is really pulling the toes back, so from that dorsiflex position I'm going to plantar flex. Excuse all the cracking. Hopefully it'll stop in a minute. And 4, make it controlled, so resist on the way back up, don't let the band pull you. 2 and 1. Now if I can show you this way around, we're going to invert and evert. So my foot is tipping that way and that way. Now you can see my knee wants to tip as well, I'm trying not to. Invert and evert. So that's using the muscles at the sides of my lower leg here. 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. Let's do the other leg. So again, my toes are just visible, and I'm pulling it above onto my thigh, it's not on my knee joint, and I'm pulled passively into that dorsiflexed position. Sit nice and tight and hold onto your leg if you want to. So I'm pushing towards the floor. It shouldn't put any pressure on your toes. There's too much tension really to try and extend the toes in this, flex the toes in this position. 4 and 3 and 2, and now bring it back up, and we're going to invert and evert with the foot. Yeah. So I'm going sole of my foot that way, sole of my foot that way. So I'm using these muscles up the side. What I'm not doing is waggling my leg about. Well, I am a bit, but I'm trying not to. So that for me, that's really tough. That's not so bad. And possibly because I've got a really high instep, so I'm already in that position. And 2, and 1, and not a moment before time. Let that go, and just with your legs straight, just point and flex the feet a little bit, and you're going to get any lactic acid out there. And then with your feet apart, not rotating from the hips, just think about waving with your feet. Going to my right feels like much easier than my left. And draw me a couple of circles, same direction, change direction, and different directions, and change different directions. And relax there.